Very good. Okay, so Parashat Debarim. It happens that every year we read Parashat Debarim exactly on the Shabbat before Tisha B'Av. What is the connection, and do we find any connection at all? Before we go there, what is the book of Devarim about? Whoever has studied, has read before, what is the book of Devarim? A recap? What else? In this recap, we find a reflection on the journeys of Bnei Israel, positives, negatives, exactly. But what we find mainly, it's the monologue of Moshe Rabbeinu. Actually, there are different interpretations. I'm going to bring you one of those of how the book is divided. And I think this is from the Gaon Vilna, but I bring it from the book of Rabbi Moshe Gerli. Let me mute everyone. You can mute, Moshe, or okay. So the book of Devarim, according to him, is divided into three parts, three main speeches of Moshe Rabbeinu. The first one that starts at the beginning of the book and ends at the end of the fourth chapter, speaks about Moshe Rabbeinu giving musar to Am Israel. How you say, chastising them, telling them you were not okay with this and this was wrong. And of course, there is inserted into this speech a match of Moshe's attitude, his personal input, his personal thoughts on things that happen. The second part is from the end of Perek Dalet, Perek Hey till Perek Kaf Zayin 27 and Pasuk Het speaks about mitzvot of the Torah. Many of the mitzvot are a repetition of mitzvot that we already had, but with certain different angle interpretation. My son Yaakov was telling me that we have to think that this is a new generation, that some things that were understood by the first generation, the people that came out of Egypt, you have to say with different words. And he was telling me, for example, imagine, how you say this, I forgot the name in English, Picapiedras. It was like a very old movie for children of these men from the prehistoric era. How do you call them? The fire? No. Oh, you know. It's the caveman, but this is for kids. How do you say? The Flintstones. I thought it was so old that people already don't know what is the Flintstones. So, for example, they say, for example, I had a gay day. In that time, a gay day is a happy day. Today, you have to something totally different. So in that way, Moshe Rabbeinu, for certain mitzvot, needs to bring different wording, different way of explaining that this generation is going to understand. And we have also new mitzvot in the book of Devarim. As we go through the book, we will mention them. And the third part, that is a very deep part that includes klalot and brachot, curses and blessings, as we're going to see at the end of the book. Now, let's go a little bit to some ideas before we go inside the parasha. The parasha is called Devarim, and it starts, Ve'ele had-devarim asher diber Moshe. And these are the Dvarim, it's okay, these are the Dvarim. What is Dvarim? Words from Ledaber. These are the words that Moshe spoke. Now let's do a little bit of history, right? And again, we're speaking about a whole book that is all of the book Moshe speaking and speaking and speaking and speaking and speaking and speaking, like a very long set of speeches. Do you remember what was the reaction of Moshe Rabbeinu when Hashem is telling him, then a while ago, like more than 40 years ago, he's telling Moshe, when Moshe was in the desert with the sheep, he's telling, I want you to go and save my people and take my people of Israel. I want you to go and speak to Paro. What does Moshe answer? Lo ish devarim anochi. I'm not a man of words. I'm not a man of speech. What does it tell us? What does it tell us about Moshe? And what can we learn from that? He's humble, that's for sure. We know that Moshe Rabbeinu היה הענב מכל אדם, the most humble person that ever existed. But what else? He didn't know. He had a real limitation. That was a limitation that Moshe had. And when we study that parasha, we go through the mefarshim. They try to explain what does it mean that he is not ish devarim. Is it that he has a problem to even pronunciate words? It's something organic, physical? Is it that he doesn't know how to expose an idea? Is it like, you can understand it in different ways. Nevertheless, Moshe Rabbeinu says, I cannot do this, Hashem. For me, it's so difficult to come and speak. When we ask some girls to speak on Shabbat, can you please be? No, I'm not a speaker. I've never spoken in front of people. I cannot speak. I cannot do this. I'm bad at math. I cannot cook. I cannot bake. I cannot. How much of this do we have in our own, understanding of ourselves? I am bad at this. I cannot do this. So the first thing that we see, even before we start to go inside the parasha, that Moshe Rabbeinu, the man that couldn't, for whatever reason, that thought about himself, I cannot be the one to speak to Paro. I cannot be the one to present the ideas. I'm not good at that. Becomes a ish devarim. And Ilo ish devarim becomes an ish devarim, and he speaks in this parasha, in this book of Devarim, 3 long speeches. He's the one that is permanently speaking. So what do we learn from that? What can we take for ourselves, for our lives? What does it tell me? You can do anything. Yes. You can conquer your fears. Let's remember, Moshe Rabbeinu, according to Chachamim, the date here is Aleph Shvat, Rosh Chodesh Shvat. I don't remember where I read and how they find out. For sure, if whoever wants to go deep into the Mefarshim, you will find out. Aleph Shvat, the month of Shvat is the month that comes before Adar. You remember when is the departure day of Moshe Rabbeinu? When is his Yortzeit? 7th of Adar. So according to that opinion, if we follow that, we are here standing around 37 days before Moshe's death. Moshe is about to die. Moshe is about to die, and he brings us a whole book of Devarim before he leaves this world. So one thing that I see, and it's amazing, and I hope and I wish this for every one of us, imagine that you're about to die, and you can leave this world with the feeling, I conquered my limitation. I was able to expand on these, difficulties that I had. I was able to build myself on this area. So this is the personal level with Moshe Rabbeinu. This is a man that lived a life, 120 years, Baruch Hashem, and it was a lot of evolving, and of course, the total different panorama of who we are. We don't have the zechut to go and stand 40 days and 40 nights next to Hashem and speak with Hashem. For sure, he had a development that is even impossible to imagine. But at least we can take what it speaks to us. Moshe Rabbeinu went through a process and worked a lot throughout his life, specifically in this area. So this is number one. In the personal level, how Moshe Rabbeinu became, and Ilo Ish Devarim became Ish Devarim, a person of words. Yes, Teina. Of course. Yes, I saw Saint Elin. Do we know the okay, let's dedicate the class to Refuah Shlema of Leah Bat Malka. I don't mention it all the time, but I am dedicating all my shiurim Leilui Nishmat Moshe Ben Miriam, Leilui Nishmat Tina Esther Bat Malka. So this is what I'm doing. If anybody wants to add, so Refuah Shlema Be'ezrat Hashem. Okay, so we see, first of all, Moshe Rabbeinu's personal evolving and growth. What else? What does it tell us about Moshe, the man that is standing in front of the people now before his departure? But imagine you know that you are going to die. Moshe Rabbeinu knows that he's going to die. How do we know that he knows? Last week, Parashat, Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, I want you to fight the war against Midian, ואחר כך תאסוף אל עמך. After that, you will die. Clear. So what any person would do, okay, delay that good, that we saw last week. Far from delaying, he goes immediately, he fulfills Hashem's commandment, he goes and fights Midian. What else? What a regular person that is about to die. Family, reflect on himself. I want to speak a little bit about that point. In regards of his position as a leader of Am Israel. What would you want to do before you die? Be nice to everyone. Hey, let's sing. I love you, I love you, I love you. Everyone, do you remember? Don't forget me. Have my picture in your house. You know, what is your desire? You want to be remembered. You want to keep the connection. We don't know what is his bucket list, if he went through all his desires. But what Moshe Rabbeinu is doing, what does he want to do before he leaves this world? That we saw, excellent. First thing, he wants to make sure that there is a leader that will take care of the people. And once that is settled, he knows, okay, Baruch Hashem, Yeshua is in charge. He knows, okay, we conquered Og and Sihon. We fought against Midian. We did everything that Hashem told us to do. So now I have, let's say, a few days. It seems that perhaps he knew exactly the date. I don't know if he knew. But let's say I have a month. What do we do with this month? Spend time with the family. We know that Moshe Rabbeinu a while ago, he disconnected from his family, like he's above these physical connections. But it's very interesting to see Moshe Rabbeinu till the end of his day teaches us what is his real essence and how he lived his position of leader of Am Israel. He cares only about Am Israel. He cares about them like a father that is leading or a mother that is leading, and she knows and she wants just to make sure that these children that are staying in this world are going to know how to live their life. They're going to have the good direction. I'm not going to be here to keep teaching you, to keep directing you, to keep guiding you, but at least I want to give you my last guidance. Rabbi Sachs, I didn't read him this year, but I remember there's some articles on this, of course. And he says, Moshe Rabbeinu, the leader, became a teacher. He's a teacher. He's teaching. And Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't have the zechut to go to Eretz Israel, but what goes to Eretz Israel is teachings. And this is how important it is when we think about ourselves, about our lives. What do we want to live here? We're not going to be here forever. Clothing, we're not going to leave any of the shoes that we bought. We're not going to leave anything, but at least leave our legacy, our message, our teachings. And let's see what Rashi has to say on the first pasuk. אלה הדברים אשר דיבר משה אל כל ישראל בעבר הירדן. These are the words that Moshe spoke to all Israel on the other side of the Jordan. במדבר, בערבה, מול סוף בן פרן ובן תופל, בלבן, בחצרות, בדיזהב. And it seems that the Torah here is describing for us where is Hashem speaking to Eretz Israel. It says, Be'ever HaYarden, on the other side of the Jordan, in regards concerning, there is an explanation here already on the translation. There is always an interpretation. But in the Hebrew, it doesn't say concerning. The translation is already taking the interpretation. Understand what I'm saying? The Hebrew says, Be'ever HaYarden, במדבר, בערבה, מול סוף בן פרן ובן תופל בלבן בחצרות בדיזהב. It seems that the Torah is giving us a number of places describing or mentioning geographically where was this said or where this happened. What does Rashi tell us about this? Anybody remembers? Whoever can follow the Rashi, read with me, I'm going to translate anyways. אלה הדברים, לפישהם דברי תוכחות, ומנה כאן כל המקומות שהכניסו לפני המקום בהן. Rashi tells us, because these are דברי תוכחות, what Moshe Rabbeinu is going to say here, דברי תוכחות, words of chastising, of telling them, no, you didn't act properly, you did this wrong, this was not right. לפיכך, that's why I mentioned all the places that עם ישראל הכניסו את השם לפני המקום. The places that they did not behave, the places that they acted wrongly כלפי הקדוש ברוך הוא. This is said by Onkelos on the Sifri. לפיכך, therefore, סתם את הדברים והזכירן ברמז. That's why he wasn't very clear about what he's about to say, and he's only hinting to them. He's hinting. How is he hinting? מפני כבודן של ישראל. Because of the honor of Israel. Who understood what I just read? I'm going to repeat. Rashi is telling us here. Why is Rashi bringing, by the way, this explanation? Because Chachamim, they try to check these places, and then they see that some of the places don't even exist. They say, where is Tofel? What is Tofel? Where is Dilavan? What else is there? Mul Suf, which Suf? So they say, well, what is exactly this list of places? Is this really geographic places? We don't find all these names. Therefore, Rashi says it's actually not to tell us where things happen. Some of them, it was specific places, but mainly for them, Am Israel that are listening, okay, we cannot forget in our mind the image. Is Moshe Rabbeinu, 120 years old, perhaps with a cane, and perhaps, well, no, although the Torah describes him as lo chahayno, his eye didn't deteriorate, he was okay physically, but he's giving his final speech to Am Israel. So everybody wants to listen. You want to listen. You love this person that was with you for so many years. So Moshe Rabbeinu is starting by saying them, imagine, let's imagine something. Imagine you're speaking with a group of students and they really acted very bad in a discotheque in, I don't know, in Middle Neck. I don't know, I'm inventing in the spot. And you're speaking with them in a club, and you're speaking with them, and you say, so here we are to say goodbye, and we hope very well that Middle Neck is not going to happen again, or you remember when you just mentioned, you don't want to specify when you were taking drugs, when you were doing this, and when you stole, you just say, and Middle Neck. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu is saying here, is doing here. Just mentioning the places. And the names are supposed to awaken certain awareness and memory. Oh, so embarrassing. I remember what happened there. No, don't remember, no, they were not they. They're not even they. It's their parents. It doesn't matter. We have an identity that is built by what our parents did, but what our grandparents did. And Moshe Rabbeinu's goal here is not to embarrass them. What is his goal? To remind them. Now, okay, I want to be fair. What I'm speaking now is a midrash. Later on, the Torah is going to really bring a little bit of more details. But it's a midrash that Chachamim take advantage to teach us about tochacha, about how to rebuke, about how to criticize. Because in the mitzvah on tochecha, it says, Ocheach tochiach et amitecha, you shall rebuke your friend, velo tisa alav chet, in a way that you are not going to be sinning. It is not going to be considered a sin for you, because I can come to a person and say, why, I don't know, give me an example of something wrong. Why did you reserve the date for your wedding on the day that I already had it? And because of you, my guest, and I do that in front of people, what am I doing? I'm embarrassing the other. So even that the other person was wrong, it doesn't give me the right to embarrass. Chachamim and the Torah were very, very careful to remind us how much we need to be careful on the kavod, on the kavod of the other, not to embarrass. So that's why Chachamim in the Midrash, Moshe Rabbeinu is saying it in a way of hinting. He's very careful. He doesn't want to make them feel bad, even when you are with the person by himself and there is no other people that he can be embarrassed in front of them. The purpose, this is very important, the purpose of the rebuke is not to make the other person feel bad about what he did. What is the purpose of the rebuke? To teach them, to help them change. And of course, it has to come from a place that I care about the person, that I love the person. I was listening to a very beautiful shiur, whoever speaks Hebrew here, I recommend it, of Rabbi Zamir Cohen on Parashat Debarim. And it really stayed on this pasuk, didn't move from this pasuk, because he spent the whole shiur on mitzvat hatochecha. And I want to take a little bit of what he said, because it's so important, and it's so important on these days that we are before Tisha B'Av. We're in the days of that we are trying to repair the reason by which the second Bet HaMikdash was destroyed. The Chachamim tell us the second Bet HaMikdash was destroyed because of Sinat Chinam. What does it mean, Sinat Chinam? Baseless hatred. To hate the other because I just don't like him. I don't like that person. I don't want that person to succeed. I don't want that person to do well in life. I just don't like it. It's not a personality. This is baseless hatred. We have to be so careful. So how do we build? How do we repair that? By adding more love and by repairing our relationships. So let's speak a little bit about tochecha, about rebuke. So this is a mitzvah. The fact we have a mitzvah in the Torah, ocheach tochiach et amitecha. You have to come and rebuke your friend. Does it mean that if I see somebody eating a cheeseburger, I have to come and take the sandwich from their hand and tell them, Asur, Taref, don't eat that? Or I see somebody in Shabbat doing things that are not allowed, we have to come and scream, Shabbos! So we all understand that this is not what the Torah is telling us. From the other side, it says, Ocheach, Tochiach, two verbs. And rabbis understand from there, repeat, and repeat, and repeat. Imagine I tell, I don't know, imagine you have a friend and you see that friend is in social media non-stop, addiction. You know for a fact, she tells you, she doesn't go to sleep, she's in social media, she works on social media, she doesn't spend time with her children in social media, social media, social media, social media. Instagram took over her life. And you're going to tell, listen, this is really wrong what you're doing. This is so bad for you, for your relationship. Is that good? Is that bad? Should you say anything at all or not? Depends on the relationship. What else? The openness. Okay, so first of all, we have a mitzvah, which means we should care what other people do. We should care. So we need to develop a sensitivity towards our fellow Jews, that we care for them. You know the famous story that we always say, that this man was in a ship, in a cruise, and he starts making a hole under his seat. And then people come, what are you doing? Crazy, what are you doing? We're going to drown. He said, no, don't worry, it's only under my seat. So this is what Chachamim usually bring us as the story, to say what we do affects others, for good and for bad. This is Am Israel, this is Kol Israel Arevim Ze Lazeh, the fact that we are connected with each other. If I do a bad action, it's going to affect my community, and the opposite. When you do acts of chesed, it's going to affect your community. It's like bringing points or taking away points if we look at it in that way. So, it means you have to care about your friend, and you need to care about your friend whenever he's doing things that are harmful for them. So in the case that I brought, if it's your friend and you love that friend, for sure you will say, listen, I give you a recommendation. You know what I do? I just leave my laptop downstairs. I don't bring it to my room. we made a rule at home that we connect phones outside because it's very difficult. Like you come from a place of love and you care. And this is ocheach tochiach, and you say one time and another time. But if it's a person that you know that is not going to listen and it's not going to affect, so you don't do that. But it's a very important mitzvah. We forget about it because we learn so much to live our lives and to care only about what I do, and I don't want to get involved with other people's lives. But it's a mitzvah from the Torah. Now, what happens in relationship between husband and wife? Criticism, rebuke, it's all inside this mitzvah. And if with a stranger I have to be careful that if I have to be careful that I have a relationship, that I care for that person, how much more whenever it's my own spouse? What about children? How much we care when we are telling our children, rebuking our children for their behavior? You know, we have to analyze ourselves and check, am I doing this from a place of love? Am I doing this because I really care for my child? Or just because they take the best of me, and because I'm full of anger, and because I lost it, and because I don't have any more patience, and because, you know, it's sometimes you listen to these young mothers, and I'm not criticizing, I was there as well. You have little kids, and you just cannot anymore. I heard one girl say, my babysitter didn't come today, I want to kill myself. Because she has to be with her children. She has to be with her children one day. Like we you know, we are in a generation of less patience. Yes, Dana.
Be smart about it. You know, influence someone without direct truth early. You know, especially nowadays we know so much about psychology and how people, you know, how to interact with someone. There's ways that people come without.
Of course, it doesn't have to be, no, you are not acting right. You have to try to have an influence. Of course, role modeling, that's the most important. But by the way, the fact that I need to care for my close people and try to impact their behavior also teaches me I cannot just disconnect from the people that I don't like the way they're behaving, because if I disconnect, who is going to bring a little bit of good influence on them? So it's a very delicate balance. You know, there is a story in the Gemara about Rabbi Meir and Bruria, his wife. You know, Bruria was a Talmidat Chacham. She was really, really brilliant. In the times of the Gemara, she used to teach the students. She used to give shiurim, like really teaching Gemara, teaching everything. That was Bruria. And they say that they had neighbors that they were bidyonim, like, you know, really, really criminals, let's say, and they were bothering Rabbi Meir. Now, this is a little bit difficult to understand, but the Gemara writes there that Rabbi Meir decided to pray for these people to die. That was also the power of the rabbi. Like, what is the place of these people in the world? They're only doing bad and evil and bothering others, etc. And his wife, the Talmidat Chachama, Bruria, tells him, why? Why are you praying for them to die? I suppose you are basing yourself in the pasuk, Itamu chataim min haaretz urshaim odenam. This is a pasuk of Teilim. Itamu chataim min haaretz means let the chataim comes from chet. What is chataim? Sins. Let the chataim itamu disappear from the land, ureshaim od enam, and also the wicked people. Now, usually this is translated like a repetition. Let the people that sin and the wicked people disappear. But he said, no. You don't make chataim as reshaim. Chataim is the sins. Let the sins disappear. So instead of praying for them to die, pray for them to do teshuvah, to become better people, have an impact on how they are, and at the end, that's what happened. That's what they did. They did teshuvah. Now, for the Rabbi Zamir brought an example also on what to do in relationship between husband and wife. So he said there is a moment when the relationship really gets very, very, very bad. He recommends stop any tochacha, any criticism, and if you have to say something, say it in writing. Start writing to each other. And he says, okay, when you write, you don't just write, I didn't like that you didn't take out the garbage. He says, start, my dear husband. My dear husband, that's already a good beginning. Add something positive. I know you try to help. I know you try to support, but it really upset me that you didn't take the garbage. And then end your loving wife, or I love you. So you already made a sandwich with the criticism and good and good. So it's a good advice, by the way. You know, the first good thing about it is when you write, you have to think. You don't just throw whatever is coming out of your anger. So let's say a couple finds themselves in a place of a lot of tension. So you say, okay, let's stop. Let's decide to communicate in writing for 2 weeks. Both ways. And it can help. Not text, writing. Then you have to really think. And then he told a story about this woman that comes to the rabbi and says, that's it, my marriage is done, it's gone, I want to get a divorce. I said, why do you come to me? He said, because I feel guilty, I have children, I feel guilty, I have children. He said, okay, do you want to try? He says, yes, I want to try. He said, I'm going to give you 3 advices. And the 3 advices are in the area of tochecha, of the speaking, of the way you speak with each other. And he says, I won't forget it. Here. It's a little bit difficult, but still, it can help somebody. Ask your husband about every important thing for 2 weeks. Everything you're going to do that is a little bit important in the house, ask him. Doesn't matter that you already live lives where everyone decides whatever they have to do, but ask him every important thing. Why? Because he was saying it's going to make him feel important. I make the decisions. I'm the head of the house. So now when you're asking the important things, imagine you want to buy a refrigerator, you ask him what brand do you think I should buy? He will tell you, what do I know about refrigerators? Why are you asking? He says, most of the answers will be, you can decide. But you gave me the feeling, you gave him the feeling that he is the one to decide. And I'm going to answer you in the name of the head of the house. I tell you to make your own decision. So you are already changing. No, men very often feel that they are not being taken into consideration. They are not being respected. So this is elevate the level of respect. The second one, every day, praise your husband at least once. And this is the minimum of the minimum. Praise has to be in our daily lives. This is also in order to speak regarding criticism. When you said it depends on the person, it depends on the relationship, it depends also on the balance of your interactions. If your interactions with the person that you love or that you are connected is most of the time positive, and then you come with something, listen, I really think that you need to stop a little bit with your Instagram, it's going to listen. But if you don't speak with that person at all, and then you come about the Instagram, that's going to be very painful. So find a balance where there is also praise. And the last one is, okay, in this case, if there is a big rupture, do not correct for a while. For 2 weeks, leave criticism. Leave it, but do it in a very, very structured way. So this is just to send you a little bit of how a mitzvah of the Torah that seems disconnected from me, it's about people that don't keep Shabbat. We can bring it into our lives, in our relationship with our spouses, with our children, with our friends, and it can be applied. Okay, let's now go a little bit inside the speech of Moshe Rabbeinu. Of course, we're not going to have the time to cover all the parasha, but as I said, the first speech, we remember what did we say it's about? The first speech of Moshe Rabbeinu is going to be about telling the people about their misbehavior in the past, about the things that happened to them. When the purpose of Moshe Rabbeinu is only for them not to repeat, for them to learn. Moshe Rabbeinu is worried, okay, you are coming to Eretz Israel. Try to think, when we read now, try to think, how is this connected to them coming to Eretz Israel now? Why is Moshe Rabbeinu choosing to tell them this? By the way, there were some opinions a little bit controversial in regards of this book of Devarim, that Moshe Rabbeinu is saying it. So wait, who wrote the Torah? Who wrote the Torah? Hashem, yes, Moshe Rabbeinu wrote what Hashem told him to read, to write, but here is Moshe Rabbeinu speaking. So how do we understand this? So the same way that Hashem tells Moshe, write what Balak spoke, write what Bilam said, write what Lavan told to Yaakov, Hashem is telling Moshe, write what you are telling to the people. That's how it's become also, that's how it's divine, the same way as all of the Torah. Even that is Moshe's Rabbeinu, personal, sometimes personal input. We're going to see it now. Okay. So Ele Devarim, these are the words that Moshe spoke to all Israel on the other side of the Jordan concerning the wilderness, concerning the Arava, opposite the Sea of Reeds, between Paran and Tofel and Lavan, and Hatzerot and Dizav. I stayed in the middle with Rashi. What are the places? What are the things that he's going to mention here? Bamidbar, I mean Rashi. They were not in the desert, but they were in Arbot Moab. So what does it mean Bamidbar? Because they made Hashem angry in the desert when they said, then who will make us die? Who would have given us to die in Egypt instead of bringing us to the desert to die? So he's reminding them this. Ba'arava, bishvil ha'arava, shechat'u beba'al peor, beshitim, be'arvot Moab. So what is Ba'arava is reminding them the sin with the girls of Moab. Mul Suf, al ma she'amru hemru beyam Suf beboam leyam Suf. Hamiblien kevarim b'Mitzrayim. So what did they do in Yam Suf? You remember when they were crossing the sea, the Midrash say that they, all before they crossed, they were so scared, they say, is there a lack of graves in Egypt that he brought us here to kill us? Ben Paran uben Tofel Lavan, אמר רבי יוחנן, חזרנו על כל המקרא ולא מצינו מקום ששמו תופל ולבן. So specifically these words, Rabbi Yochanan in the Gemara says, we went through the whole Torah and we didn't find any place that is called Tofel and Lavan. So what is the reference to? Who can tell me? Tofel from Tafel, Velavan, what was white? Ela, Hochichan, al advarim, shetaflu, al aman, she'u lavan. It refers to the things that they said about the man that is, we don't like this, and the man is something white. So the Rashi basing himself in the Midrash is saying, you see how in a hint level, Moshe Rabbeinu is telling them about all of this. Ve'amru, they said, V'nafshenu katza b'lechem ha'klokal, we are disgusted or tired from this bread, etc., etc. Al זה שעשו במדבר פרן is about the meraglim. The Hatzerot refers to the machloket of Korach, etc. Or, says Rashi, דבר אחר, אמר להם, היה לכם ללמוד ממה שעשיתי למדיין בחצרות בשביל לשון הרע. So it said, you didn't learn from what I did to Miriam, that she was punished from Lashon Hara, the place was Hatzerot, and immediately after what happened to Miriam, what came? The Meraglim. And Rashi says there, they did not learn, they were Reshaim. Sivan Rav Meir usually likes to say that a new definition of what is to be wicked is when you don't learn from the experience. This is to be a bad person. When you had opportunity to learn from something and you didn't learn. So they didn't learn. Miriam spoke bad about her brother. She was punished. And then next thing that we see in the Torah, the Meraglim are speaking bad about Eretz Israel. This Zahav, what can be this Zahav? Chet HaEgel. Zahav is gold. Is reminding them, Chet HaEgel. No, I don't know. The is like off. I think it's off. Off Zahav. That's what I think. Okay, so let's continue. Pasuk second, page 939. You know, the book of Devarim is very easy to study by only reading the psukim because it's like a speech and it's talking in very simple level to Am Israel. 11 days from Horeb by way of Mount Seir to Kadesh Barnea. It was in the 40th year, in the 11th month, on the first of the month, when Moshe spoke to the children of Israel. When we find in the Torah date and specific place of a name of a place, is in order to make from this a documented event. You can say, once upon a time, Moshe Rabbeinu spoke with the people. No, the Torah is giving us the, here is the, here is the date. I said, I don't know from where, 11th month on the first of the month, when Moshe spoke to the children of Israel, according to everything that Hashem had commanded him to them, after he had smitten Sichon, king of Amorite, who dwelt on Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, who dwelt on Ashtaroth in Edrei, on the other side of the Jordan in the land of Moab, Moshe began explaining this Torah saying. So this is the book that is called Mishneh Torah. Now the speech begins. After Moshe Rabbeinu is telling them where did he speak, all what they did, and the Torah is making a documented event with date and place. You know, in the ketubah of a marriage, it starts with the date and the place. You know, that is a contract. So the book of Devarim will have the contract Be'arbot Moab. Later there is a repetition of the Berit at the end of Berit, of Devarim, but we will, that's why we need the date. Yes, Moshe. Ashte Asra is 11. Yes. Okay. So now, Hashem, Pasuk 6. Hashem, our God, spoke to us in Horeb, saying, enough of you dwelling by this mountain. Turn yourself around and journey and come to the Amorite mountain and all its neighbors in the Arabah on the mountain and in the land and in the south and the sea coast, the land of the Canaanite and the Lebanon until the great river, the Euphrates River. See, I have given the land before you. Come and possess the land that Hashem swore to your forefathers, to Abraham, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov, to give them and their children after them. So Hashem is telling us, okay, it's time for you to go and conquer Eretz Israel. I said to you at that time, saying, I cannot carry you alone. So Moshe Rabbeinu is making history. He says, once we left Egypt and Hashem is telling us to go to Eretz Israel, what is the first thing that we need before we go to Eretz Israel? We needed to be organized as a society. We needed to have law and order. We needed to be able to judge. You remember we saw it many times. Before Matan Torah, Parashat Yitro, we see that Yitro is coming and giving Moshe the advice. You are going to drain, you are going to get so, dry from you judging all these people. So we see that they were asking for law and order. So Moshe is saying, I said to you at that time, saying, I cannot carry you alone. Hashem, your God, has multiplied you, and behold, you are today like the stars of heaven in abundance. May Hashem, the God of your forefathers, add to you 1,000 times yourselves and bless you as he has spoken of you. Something very beautiful. Moshe is telling you became many, and he doesn't just continue. When he says you are many, what does he do? He blesses them. He gives a beracha. That's a very beautiful Jewish minhag. When you tell somebody, wow, how beautiful are your children, it's good to add, may Hashem bless them. Today it became very much, bli ayin hara. They shouldn't have ayin hara. It's better, instead of saying bli ayin hara, bless them. May Hashem protect them. May Hashem bless them. It's like, instead of saying, may, like Balak did, curse Am Israel, he should have said, bless us. Always look for the blessing instead of avoiding the negative. So now, what is that? Oh, you say that? That's the best. That's the best. But it's beautiful. You are mentioning bless. Get used to bless. Get used to be a person that is always wishing good to the other. That shows also generosity. You see something, somebody has something, somebody's enjoying something. Wow, enjoy. May Hashem give you more. May Hashem bless your children. May Hashem make you happy. This is being happy for the things that the others have. So Moshe Rabbeinu is saying here, bless you as he has spoken of you. How can and then he says, how can I alone carry your contentiousness and your burdens and your quarrels? Provide for yourself distinguished men who are wise, understanding, and well known to your tribes, and I shall appoint them as your heads. And they accepted. And then they did. And I'm going to jump a little bit. So look on Pasuk 16. I instructed you, judges at that time, saying, listen among your brethren and judge righteously between a man and his brother or his litigant. So Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, okay, now we have a system of justice, and is reminding some of the advices, some of the things that the judges needed to consider. What is the first verb that appears here for the judges? Listen. The most important element before you judge, listen. And listen with understanding. Listen and put yourself on the place of the other. And this is not only for judges, this is for all of us in our lives. This is something that we're lacking so much, to listen. Before you take any judgment on any subject, on anything on life, did you really listen? Did you really listen what's going on with the other? Do you really listen according to what the other person is living? And then it continues giving some halachot that have to do with the judges. Pasuk 17, you shall not show favoritism in judgment, small and great alike shall you hear. You have somebody that is very important and somebody that is not so important. Let's say you have the mayor of your town has a case, is coming to trial together with another person. Are you going to respect this one more because it's more important? No, the Torah is telling us the two of them on the same level, the same thing. You have somebody very rich that you know that he owns so many properties and he's having a case, no, argument with a very poor person of $200. You as the judge could think, what is this $200? How are these going to help this person that has so much? But this other, it could be their meals. It could be their Shabbat preparations. So perhaps you could say, no, I'm going to give it to him. No, the Torah is telling you shall hear small and great, tzedek, and you shall not tremble before any man, for the judgment is God's. Any matter that is too difficult for you, you shall bring to me and I shall hear it. I commanded you at that time all the things that you shall do. And then he continues, and look at Pasuk 22. I have to skip a little bit. All of you approached me and said, let us send men ahead of us and let them spy out the land and bring word back to us, the road on which we should ascend and the cities to which we should come. So he says, you asked from me to send what? Spies. He's speaking about the meraglim. So Moshe says, the idea was good in my eyes. So I took from you 12 men. This is how we know the story. How do we know the story? Hashem is the one that told Moshe, okay, send, but send. Moshe says here, the idea was good in my eyes, and I took from you 12 men, one man for each tribe. It's like Moshe and Hashem are like a partnership. It goes together. They turned and ascended the mountain and came until the valley of Eshkol and spied it out. They took in their hands from the fruit of the land and brought it down to us. They brought back word to us and said, good is the land that Hashem, our God, gives us. But you did not wish to ascend, and you rebelled against the word of Hashem, your God. You slandered in your tents and said, because of Hashem's hatred for us, did he take us out of the land of Egypt, etc., etc. I have a question to you. What doesn't sound so clear here? What does it say that was the report of the spies? Read again. It was good. So you wanted spies, I agreed. We sent spies, 12 men went there, and they came and they said the land was good. Who said that the good? So they said the land was good, but the general report, was it positive or negative? Negative. So two things Moshe Rabbeinu is telling them here. First of all, you have to focus on the first part of what they said, that the land was good. Second thing, Moshe is telling them, I don't care. You had to know better. Like, I don't care what the Meraglim came and said. He's making them take responsibility for their actions. Because everybody could say, oh, what did you want from us? They came and they scared us. They told us that there are giants. They told us that it's difficult to conquer. Moshe Rabbeinu is telling them, what is important is the way you reacted. You need to take responsibility for your actions. And that's why Hashem is punishing, actually, all of us, Israel. Then I said to you, Pasuk 29, do not be broken and do not fear them. Hashem, your God, who goes before you, he shall make war for you like everything he did for you in Egypt before your eyes. So, and in the wilderness, as you have seen, that Hashem, your God, bore you as a man carries his son on the entire way that you traveled until you arrived at this place. Yet in this matter, you do not believe in Hashem, your God, who goes before you on the way to seek out for you a place for you to encamp, with fire by night to show you the road that you should travel, and with a cloud by day. So you tell me, what is Moshe Rabbeinu doing here? He's rebuking them, he's mentioning what happened with the Meraglim, but what is that Moshe Rabbeinu cares the most? Okay, to insert in them, to bring them to the awareness, you shouldn't be afraid. Hashem was with you in the desert. He was guiding you. He listened to you. He gave you everything you needed. So I have to finish. We just started the parasha, but I just want to remind us why this parasha is read the Shabbat before Tisha B'Av. You know, in the Gemara, when it says that the reasons for Tisha B'Av, and they enumerate the reasons for Tisha B'Av, among them the destructions of the two Bet HaMikdash, the destruction of Betar, the Nechresha Ir, the city was plowed. The first reason that is mentioned, what is the first reason for Tisha B'Av? What happened on Tisha B'Av? This, Chet HaMeraglim, the fact that Am Israel, Tisha B'Av, and the Midrash says, all the people were crying and they were saying, oh, what's going to be with us, our children, we don't want to, like, it was terrible. It was terrible. They were coming from Egypt, like they should be with this enthusiasm. We're coming to Eretz Israel. This was the goal for them leaving Egypt. This is the word that Hashem told Moshe, take my people out of Egypt because I want to take them to Eretz Israel. And that should have happened like that. They come from Egypt, walk towards Eretz Israel, they go there, they establish themselves, they build the Bet HaMikdash. End of the story, or beginning of the story. But it didn't happen. They started to cry, and why Hashem is doing this to us? We don't want, da, 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 da. So Hashem tells them, Atem bechitem bechiyah shel chinam. You are crying for nothing? I'm going to make this day for you a day of bechi, of cry, of sadness for generations. It's like they create a reality on this day. Historically, it became a day where, unfortunately, we cry for many tragedies that happened. But this was a very, very sad beginning of us, Am Israel, as a people. And the source of this was the source of their sin. You just said it. It is lack of faith in Hashem, fear. When you're afraid of things, I'm not going to be able to do this. I cannot do, you forget that Hashem is with you. Because that's how we have to live our lives. When Hashem is with us, it has to give us the confidence that we're going to be able to pursue the things that, at least that are good in Hashem's eyes. Okay, I have to stop here. And of course, there is so much more to study. Thank you.